So trying to cram your PhD in 3D in 5 minutes. There's a way to go, Buzz. So Bruce, talk a little bit about your experience, because you kind of got into it not knowing 3D and then kind of learning on the, and you can actually react a little bit to Buzz's rules here.
Right, I can't wait to take the course, and I've made 5 3D movies. In my case, I had the fortune of being able to have a relationship with a couple of the filmmakers who were really pioneering this, and I went and tried to suck everything I could out of their brain that would, in my limited prep time, help me with 3D. The most important decision I made was hiring a really great stereographer. And in some cases, your stereographer can be your cameraman as well, and in the event that they're not, it's really important that the two of them are best friends forever, because if they're not in sync with one another, then you're going to get mixed messages and contradictions in what to do about it. Also, because I was shooting a documentary and in real time, I didn't have the luxury or the money to be able to spend a lot of time on the set dealing with tweaking interocular and convergence. And one of the notes I was given from Mr. Cameron was just tie convergence to focus, which is exactly what I did, and I believe that is what he did in Avatar. There's several camera systems out there. Some are expensive. Some are less expensive than others. I shot mine with cameras that have the 2/3 inch sensors, so at times I actually had too much depth of field. If I had had the money and if they had been invented at the time, I would have gone with the cameras with the 1-inch sensor that would have given me more 35mm depth of field. I cut in 2D, and then the lab would conform it overnight, and I'd look at my cut in 3D, and by the time I made the second movie, I kind of knew just from cutting in 2D what would work and what wouldn't. I don't know if some filmmakers are cutting in 3D. I would think that you would get eye fatigue if you were the editor. We would run dailies, and because I was shooting with 8 cameras, at 90 minutes every day, we knew to stop looking at dailies because we had kind of seen enough. And also because I was shooting on the fly, in many cases my convergence and focus pullers were all over the place because they didn't really know where my subject was going to be. These are cases that you won't have a problem with in making a narrative movie because you can do take 2. But when you get really bad convergence and focus pulling, it's like brain shear. You just immediately know it. So convergence can be manipulated a bit in post. Interocular cannot, it's baked in. I mixed in 2D, but because I was doing a concert film, I made a quick pass in 3D, which was somewhat expensive to do, only because I wanted to pull certain instruments out. If you were literally pulling a guitar player out, I wanted to enhance that, that instrument a little bit in my mix. Even on a low-budget film, it's still more expensive than 2D. You're still making a 2D pass. You're still doing a 2D DI. You're doing a 3D DI. You will have some camera anomalies that are just normal, especially with the beam. You know, there's the side-by-side rig, and then when you want to get in really close, there's the beam splitter. Beam splitter, one of the cameras is going through an extra piece of glass. You'll get certain polarizations, certain anomalies. It's all fixable. It just takes a little bit of time to do that. I was able to go Steadicam even though they weighed about 100 pounds. So I got really big guys to do that. And I didn't feel too limited because I was also one other thing, just because I was, a concert film, the dynamic range of my digital cameras wasn't as good as film. So I sometimes found myself fighting the lights, the concert bright lights, which sometimes digital can't handle as well as film. But if you do a lot of homework and you budget out the various options, it's, while more expensive, it still can be affordable. And then you just have to make creative choices along the way. But but the key really for me was the right stereographer.
So Steve, you also kind of had the same little experience. You can't ask, Shaq to pause and redo the dunk if you miss it. So talk a little bit about, your NBA experience, and I know you got a couple of clips also.
Yeah, exactly. When we did our first 3D game in 2007, we had an internal debate about who should direct it. So I resolved the debate. I said, we're going to get the best basketball director we can, which was a guy named Andy Rosenberg, who's directed for years, and we're going to go ahead and let Vince Pace direct the 3D. Because I think what you see in James Cameron and what you see in the best of the work here is that even though the pictures are inherently 3D, you still need to allow the viewer a way to step back into the frame. So I actually kind of liken it. I don't know if you've ever. I'm going to liken it to something that's enormously flat. Chinese ink painting, right? So Chinese ink painting, they always give you a foreground element, then they allow your eyes to travel to a middle ground element, and then eventually you can take the trip through the ink painting, right? It's very similar, I think, with 3D. I mean, I think that's the power of Avatar, that every shot allows you a way in. In addition to the 3D, every shot, gives you a path that your eyes can travel so that you can live inside of the world. And that's really what we've been trying to accomplish, with each one of our 3D productions. We did it in 2007 for a small audience of 500 people, and I kind of cheated on that. I was telling Buzz, we had 2 dark fibers that ran from the Thomas and Mack Center back to the Mandalay Center, and I put it on 2 4K projectors. And the incredible depth of the uncompressed HD and the 3D were just tremendous, right? But then we also did it once for 18,000 people. So the Cavaliers were on the road in the finals, down in San Antonio. We actually handed out 14,000 pairs of glasses, and we had 4 60-foot screens rigged in a square in the middle, and the fans had a wonderful time. In fact, that was their high moment because the Cleveland Cavaliers lost 0-4, so that was the best thing that happened to that entire crowd. So there's been lots of learning at every step. So. And then this thing you're going to see, the clip that you're going to roll now, go ahead and roll the clip, was actually, get your glasses on. We actually produced this for distribution to theaters, distributed via Cinedigm to 100 theaters around the country.
At least something else is more gimmicky than the 3D this time.
Indeed. Now, as was alluded to before, there's there we go. Cameramen are handling the focus, right? The video controller's handling the video, but there's also convergence operators operating in real time, handling, the very most important part of 3D, which is keeping that convergence consistent, between camera cuts. So here comes Kryptonite. So just, one of the big problems, of course, we have is just finding room for the rigs in the arena. But it's a very difficult task, and that's why we focused on a lot of all-star games, because I actually control all the elements there.